혹시 머리 외에도 다른 의체를 고려하신다면 스트레스 협회의 인증을 받은 G10 모델 의족을 추천드립니다. 좋은 다리를 가지면 당신도 위험한 상황에서 빠르게 도망칠 수 있을 거예요.
Great, thanks for that. Greetings and salutations everyone, I'm Ekamac, this is Let's Play Limbus Company. Murder on the Warp Express. In the last episode, we got through story explaining how we got to here, so basically we're taking a warp train in first class and something went horribly wrong. Because of course it did. We're here already? Wow, I guess that wasn't an exaggeration at all. It really happened in the blink of an eye. As always, Faust was giving me her usual look, was a complete lack of any emotive expression. Which I suppose is why it didn't immediately register that something had gone awry. No, we are not yet at our destination. Huh? When I finally came to, and after I had some time to digest that odd reply, I looked up at her face once again, and realized that her expression was more antsy than usual by a microscopically minuscule degree. So this train is still running? Yes. Then, where are we? I believe we are currently stranded in an unidentified dimension, coordinates unknown. I took a reflexive deep breath from the sheer horror of the numerous implications stuffed into that dryly delivered sentence. When that passed, the first thing that struck my mind was that we were about to suffer the very thing that we were so worried about. I see. But I soon found myself calming down. Yeah, this had to be a part of Faust's plan. She probably saw this coming from a mile away. I'm sure she's about to proudly tell me every little detail of her plan that will help us out of this situation. But this is all just part of the plan, right, Faust? That was an unusually long silence from Faust. You are half correct, yet half incorrect. With that, Faust left me to flounder in the chaotic stream of vaguely terrifying information as she began stopping by each capsule to wake up the sinners. We're here already? Man, it really happened in the blink of an... No. Oh, what's this? We're here already? For real? It really happened in the blink of an... No. Oh, we're here already? I guess I really was worrying over nothing. No. Oh, no. Yet I have not uttered a single word. Everyone wants to say the same thing, and they're wrong. There was a brief cheer, a little hurrah about regaining our colours, followed by a flat-toned explanation of our current predicament, which was then followed by a long, loaded silence. Which was a sequence of events I had the pleasure of watching play out on about 10 consecutive occasions. So who's the odd one out then? Dante, I understand your confusion, however. Perhaps an elaboration of our present circumstances is necessary. And that brings us to the present. Let me get this right. This train's still running. And we're drifting through some unknown dimension. Oh, aught about that striketh me as quite dramatic. Most important, are you saying that you already knew that this would happen, Faust? Yes. What the hell is wrong with you, huh? The sinners each began to voice their anger. Of course, this wasn't the first time Faust and Virgilius intentionally and knowingly omitted certain details about events in our path. What, are you insane? It's not like we can just retreat or jump out that door when stuff hits the fan. Opening the door will result in nearly immediate destruction of the physical body. But hey, Fal, at least you know what to do like you always do. You've got a plan, right? Right? Faust, whom I had never seen at a loss for words, was having oddly long instances of silence. What's up with her? Last looks totally out of it today. She gives me a sideways glance. There must be something she can't discuss in front of the sinners. Guys, let's pause for a bit. She said that something inconceivable's happened. The other sinner's anger was completely understandable. It also makes sense that this continued lack of communication is harming our trust in Forst. Alright, we're going to go over the situation from the start, okay? But just letting things play out might really turn everyone against Forst, and for good. And I doubt Forst had any ill intent in waking us up in the middle of our trip. First things first, I got to get the sinners to calm down. Then I'll ask Forst to tell us about what's happened. If there's a problem, we'll figure it out and deal with it as we move along. Tell us what's going on, Forst. All of it. And in a way that we can all understand. Let's hear her out first. Is that okay with you guys? If you say so, I'll go along with it. Fine. I suppose Lunas and Mirag rarely ever did anything. Thank you. Then, after some time, the gist of Forst's explanation was as follows. The cause of this issue, as always, involved certain contract and unilateral decision from the higher-ups of Limbus Company. W Corps caught wind of Limbus Company's recent distortion contract management promotions, and decided to contract us to deal with a mysterious, repeated series of incidents suspected to have been caused by distortion. After multiple failed attempts to resolve it on their own, of course. The distortions themselves likely did not pose a problem for W Corps. Based on available information, it can be determined that they would have all been neutralized as soon as the train arrived. Any transformed passengers would have been reverted to their human forms. But the real issue was the passengers were disappearing. Passengers spirited away? Alas, such is an impossibility aboard these trains, is it not? That is the question for which we must discover the precise cause and effect of. Did W Corps share anything to get us started? That appears to be most prominent cause of this misunderstanding. She explained that W Corps refused to share anything about the trains because they were concerned about maintaining the secrets of their singularity. There's the word I was looking for, is their singularity. Maybe that's exactly why they sought out an upstart business like Limbus Company to deal with this. Now that I think about it, we wouldn't even know where to start if we didn't have access to the information that the identity cards had to offer. True. They would be exceptionally upset if they knew that we knew. Forst produced what appeared to be a key card with a W Corps logo on it before continuing with her explanations. However, we were given this master key card that can open and close the hibernation capsules at will. We may return to our respective capsules as soon as the contract is fulfilled and safely complete the rest of our journey as we had planned from the beginning. These bloody wings! Every single one of them's absolutely balmy! I think it's a bit unkind of them to ask us to finish this puzzle without all the important pieces. At least T-Corps, their chief executive director, could have tagged along as our assistant, not to mention kindly explaining so many new things to us. It sounds like Miss Forst was stuck between a rock and a hard place herself. Some sinners grew more receptive after her explanations, albeit with a sigh. I would have appreciated it if you at least gave us a hint. Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, but it's not like there's someone out there monitoring your every move and every word, right? That is... But not everyone was willing to let this go without saying their piece. Next time, I will take your inputs into account. And that's everything I can do for her. It's an undeniable truth that Forst has disappointed the sinners with what she's done. But she is Forst, after all. I'm sure she has backup plans to get us out of this situation. So what's next on our agenda? Yeah, what's done is done, right? Besides, it's not like we gotta rot away for thousands of years inside this metal box. That is something I must first discuss with Dante. Discuss? But discussing things with other people is a very unlike Forst. What are we discussing, Forst? I recommend you lower your voice from this point onward, Dante. Why are we whispering? Her secretive attitude only served to exasperate my already battered sense of safety. My connection to the Gesellschaft, Forst, has been severed. Yep. People have been suspecting that she has some sort of connection with all the other Forsts. Now we have a name for it. I'm sorry, what? I cannot access Forst's knowledge at this moment. I guess what I was absolutely right to be anxious. Okay, here we go. We finally get into a fight with something. Effective affinities. Blunt, Envy. Clear within 10 turns. Difficulty level of 40. And this is a chain battle. So let's just think it out. We aren't getting any sort of bonuses from deploying these units. Alright, so take it from the top.
마침내 현장 출발합니다. 각 정리요원은 위치로.
네, 목적지를 향.
청소 준비 완료.
Wait, blunt, right. How many blunt skills do we have around here? Ooh, we don't actually have that many. I guess this would be blunt if we had a full set for it.
준비는 완료했습니다. 출발하죠. 준비 되었어요.
Thinking about it, think about it, think about it.
일인가요?
전가요?
일인가요?
밧줄 단단히 묶어라.
I do not want to use you because you actually will reduce SP for the team if we let our ego resources build up. I've learned my lesson from the Refraction Railway. Alright, let's try it out.
천천히 가자니까.
What do you mean you can't? I mean it in the most literal sense. My access to Force input and information, which has always been readily available, is completely severed. It's like getting to a test and realizing you aren't allowed to take your computer in with internet access. Oh, what if everything about the situation is something you don't have access to yet, like you said last time? One cannot completely dismiss that possibility, but even that is uncertain. Every answer Forst has given me was always full of confidence and methodical expertise. I don't think she's ever said a sentence that was this full of speculation and doubt. The problem that she's having here, I think, is that... What is it that I'm thinking of? I think the problem is that her connection isn't designed to be... She's never actually gone on a warp train and been conscious for it. Well, actually no, they wipe your memories at the end of it, so it's more that... other Forsts might have gone through this, but they also forgot about the whole thing. Then Forst, you are... Yes, at this moment I am limited to operating only with my knowledge. I cannot discern the cause of this disconnection. More than enough precautions have likely been taken in case of interdimensional travel, but perhaps Force did not take into account on occasion in which we have to access an unidentified dimension such as this. Or even if it was taken into account, this particular dimension may not yet have been subject to cross-observation. If that is not the case, then No, never mind. There was nothing that suggested that my connection to Forst would be lost. not even as we boarded the train. To be honest, this is a rather disagreeable situation for me. Alright, for now. Now that changes everything. I recalled the last thing I saw before the hatch on the capsule closed, when Force told me not to worry too much. Okay, this is just a minor setback. Nothing we can't beat, right? We got this. I began to mutter like I was trying to convince myself. As the manager, my job is to calm everyone down and set their sights on the future, just as Force did for me immediately before the hatch closed. If you're right about why you were disconnected, then that problem will solve itself once we're off the train. And if we do ever run out of options, I'll just turn the clock and see what happens. Don't stress yourself too much, we still have a lot to work with. Your knowledge, my clock, the sinners, and... I could feel my confidence taking a hit with every word that came out of my metaphorical mouth. But that did seem to be enough for Forced. She nodded. Understood. And to the sinners, the fact that we are currently confined to a warp train in operation must be a source of enough stress. I believe that sharing Forced's current state with them would add an unnecessary source of tension. What, so reckon this door ain't gonna do anything? We're all gonna bite it once it opens? How many times do I have to tell you that you're not even strong enough to break this door down? A billion years in this box. Yeah, good idea. So, what now? Do we have to take a search and sweep around each car or something? In the grand scheme of things, yes. Force cleared the air with a cough before continuing. Actually, wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... I wonder if there's anyone else in these, because it looks like not all of the capsules are open. But then again, they might just not have been used because first-class passengers are very low interest. By A-Corps standard timescale, approximately 3 days have passed since our departure. As per the contract between Limbus Company and W-Corps, I acquired the master key card placed in my capsule and adjusted the hatch settings to open automatically in 3 days. 3 days, huh? I feel like I just blinked and I guess that's hibernation for you. As you were all informed prior to boarding, there is no way for the economy class passengers to enter the first class car. That is why this place has remained untouched. However, cross-referencing my own deductions and W-Corps' rather fragmentary explanations, I can assume that the situation is currently under progression in the economy class cars. The part where they thrash the shite out of one another, tearing their limbs off, all that mess. No, I doubt that. I don't think it gets that bad in just 3 days. Besides, that's supposed to be business as usual for W-Corps, right? There must be something else that's out of the ordinary they want us to deal with. Precisely. In my opinion, it is... Oh! Hold that thought for but a moment! Just as Force was about to continue, Don Quixote raised her index finger to her lips and signaled her to be quiet. Dost thou hear aught as I do? Scratching, nay, rapping, forsooth, past this case must be... As Don Quixote kept listening with her ear to the door, an odd expression of half curiosity and half horror appeared on her face. It is possible that there must be... Lady Forced? After that very distressful noise, everyone simultaneously turned their heads to look at Forced, who closed her eyes briefly in thought. Please step aside for a moment, Don Quixote. It would be best if I observed it with my own eyes. With that, she produced the master key card from her pocket and approached the panel installed next to the door. What? Hang on a minute. You're going to open the door? I intend to follow your usual flavour of suggestion, Heathcliff. That there are times in which a physical altercation is preferable to detached ruminations. My suggestions? Well, I ain't gonna disagree with you there, but what's gotten into you, lass? After all, how could I deduce anything without seeing it myself? After a brief mechanical beep, hideous creatures suddenly crashed through the open door and charged wildly in our direction. So an interesting thing about the Love Town reception in Library of Ruina is that it kind of acted as a tutorial on how to deal with specific types of enemies. There were enemy attacks you absolutely had to clash with, but there were also ones you had to let go through one-sided else you take heavier hits. They also had enemies that were heavily resistant to one attack type but weak to the other two. So you had to, spread out. Anyway, this is a click and drag type of unfocused encounter. Craving Bloodbag Passenger. If target has 10 plus bleed, deal 20 plus damage, weak to envy and blunt. Resist nothing, resist no physical effect, resist lust. Inflict bleed count, inflict lots of bleed count. If target has bleed, deal 20% damage, inflict 4 bleed, absorb up to 10 bleed, heal bleed potency absorbed times 2% HP. This does not lower the target's bleed potency under 1. Base power for every bleed count on self. Bleed count on self? Gain 1 bleed count every time this unit is hit. I see. Turn end, consume 3 bleed count on self to gain coagulated blood. Gain offense level and defense level. So that could go up quite quickly. Prioritize targets with bleed. Turn end, if this unit failed to deal damage, gain fragile and offense level up next turn. Take 10% less damage from targets with bleed. On hit, if they have bleed, heal 10% of damage dealt. Okay, we also have violent passengers. Inflict bleed, inflict bleed, inflict bleed, and absorb it. Gain base power for bleed counter. Roughly the same thing, but we have to keep in mind which ones are which. So the craving ones will inflict bleed count. The violent ones will inflict bleed itself, so best not to have too many fails in a row. Oh, actually, these ones are Wrath, and these ones are Sloth. That's good to know. The downside is that I don't know whether I have a way to build up my SP, so us being significantly higher level might screw us over in the long run.
공간을 뭉갠다.
And because they're fragile, they all get offense. They got no damage off. They all got fragile and offense level up. That's not ideal. $88. I think you could actually do it. You, on the other hand, shouldn't. You should be able to stagger him before he gets to hit back, leaving Hong Lu free to get his shot off.
충전 기능 점검. 단숨에 점령. 지금이 기회야.
Huh. Just one wave? Oh, actually, oh, they don't have SP gauges. I see.
충전 기능 점검. 단숨에 점검.
있지.
I need to remember to set this back to soda because we'll probably need the healing.
내 앞을 막을 자는 없어.
자, 이번은 이쪽으로 모으고
다음은 어디요?
모을 필요는 없겠군요.
Another cutscene? Lady Faust, however similar in appearance they may have been to the passengers, verily, 'tis as though they were in a complete want of sense. Like people politified by the whale. Don Quixote hesitated until the last minute before raising her weapon to fight them. She hangs her head mournfully. Normally, Faust would have told her more information about those monsters before the fight began, and she would not have been burdened by the sheer thought of bringing harm to the innocent. Faust began searching the area, closely observing the various bodies and general area for information. You appear particularly inquisitive today, Miss Faust. Yeah, aren't you usually the one who has all the answers while we're racking our brains trying to come up with something? The sinners were starting to feel that there's something off about Faust's behavior. I get the feeling we won't be able to keep that secret for long. They might even soon realize that there's something wrong with Faust right now. Don Quixote, they are not dead. Huh? Observe closer. The parts are all tethered to one another by something, are they not? Oh-ho! It appears that the flow of time has ceased in this space. Therefore, it follows that the connections that tether bodies to life and away from death remain intact. To my relief, Faust managed to correctly figure out what's going on like her usual self, even if it took her slightly longer than it usually does. Hey, what did I say? We got this! Huh? What was that about? Oh, nothing. But I'd forgotten that not all sinners were content with nodding along to whatever information Faust had told us. The flow of time has ceased aboard a warp train, is it? Yi-Sang grew pensive. Seeing that, Faust's lips parted for a moment before closing shut. I was starting to get a good read on her. That was an unmistakable look of regret, no matter how short-lived. Howbeit, would it not be more accurate to muse that the flow of time has decelerated, to the point where, extra-dimensional observer, it has slowed to a stop? What is your perspective regarding this suggestion? Yes, that is a most rational suggestion, Yi-Sang. Did Miss Faust just get something wrong? Wow, Yi-Sang sure is a time expert, right? Can you summarize it in easier language now that we're talking about it anyway? Gladly, if you would allow me. Yi-Sang began to elaborate with gentle enthusiasm. That was close. To speak in brevity, it can be said that death is not an element aboard this train. And? Can you maybe speak in a little less brevity? To elaborate. Verily, this one's heart beats still. Don Quixote lowers her head and listens closely to what appeared to be a dismembered torso, and shouts with relief. Their state is akin to an unassembled jigsaw puzzle, merely immobilized and separated. Though their corpus has been sundered, the concept of death is a state of, for all intents and purposes, eternal delay aboard this train, existence and continuance of Moriartarium. Forced they are to be tethered upon the thinnest yet tenacious thread of life. I ill understood what hath been said here, yet they are not dead all the same, If their severed parts are all connected, it can be said that no matter how entangled their bodies become, it is not impossible to eventually gather their parts together to form a single passenger. Thus, naturally, we can determine how and why the profession W-Core cleanup agent has come to be. I see, because someone will have to categorize and reconstruct these puzzles once the journey is over. It's really baffling to me that a job like that even exists. Ever seen a wing that wasn't baffling in every sense of the word? Still, I guess that means that as long as the train arrives at the station, they'll all be put back together like nothing had happened. From what I learned through the W-Core identities, their main job was to gather chunks of flesh together to bring them back to their original shapes before they boarded the trains. It's a lot more visceral when I have to look at it in person. That is quite the auspicious news among ill tidings indeed. It soon clicked in me what Faust was, though with some effort, trying to do as I watched Don Quixote's sigh with relief. Maybe Faust was trying to cheer Don Quixote up in her own way. The other Faust would not find it even necessary to do something like that. Dante? Huh? What's up? Oh, good time to whisper, right? Indeed, I intend to collect further intelligence. Well, if there is anything I can tell you. Faust cast a dark gaze toward chunks of flesh. Her gaze remained fixed upon them as she whispered. Are they distortions or abnormalities? Oh, yeah, I actually wanted to ask you about that. They weren't humans, that's for sure. From them, I felt the same sensation I felt from monsters. Something inexplicable. An unclear sensation or an aura. I felt this somewhere before, I'm sure of it, but I couldn't quite pinpoint the source of this sensation. One thing I do know for sure is that this sensation was not the same feeling I got from abnormalities, distortions, or even the Pecatula. If I had to lean one way or the other, I'd say they're closer to distortions. I'm sorry, I don't think they're either of those. Is it difficult to be certain at the moment? Again, I'm not sure how I can explain this, but they're very, very similar to distortions, but also different. If you had to ask, then I'm gonna guess Faust doesn't know. Faust may know, but I, at this moment, have no way of knowing. I feel like I should apologize for that. There is no need, Dante. Though the information you have provided me is rather ambiguous, it has helped me deduce something of worth. And collecting intelligence myself and creating deductions based on sparse information is quite... She paused, holding a bloody, slimy chunk of flesh in her hands. Did she just smile to herself with gore in her hands? Oh, finally the awakening has begun. Next time on Limbus Company, we're going to see what else we have to do around here.
다들 알맞은 파편으로 조각났군요.
You know, people like to trash talk Mersault, W-Core Mersault, for not being that interesting, and to be fair, at Uptide 3 he was kind of bad, but you can't underestimate how much he can blitz through content. Like, he has some very strong debuffs attached. So yeah, we've got 6.520, this one's going to be dialogue. Until then guys, take care, I'll see you all around.